Every year around this time, my birthday is September 13th. And I don't know. It's always hard for me because it makes me wonder about, the day that I actually became or was born. And inevitably, I end up wondering about my real mom and dad. Just because I don't know, I don't share this a lot, but I start thinking about the fact that if anyone who knows my story, which isn't many people, my real mom, I was raised by my maternal grandmother since I was 4.5 months old. My real mom, she did a lot of drugs. She had some mental problems, serious mental issues that probably stemmed from drug use, and who knows. But regardless, she left me, from what I know, in a motel room when I was about 4.5 months old. And she ended up in jail. And it somehow came to light that she had a baby, and she told the police where I was and went and found me. I ended up going to the hospital. I was in one of those old baby swings, I guess. And I was sitting on my right leg. And I had been there for a long time. Long enough, I guess. I don't know how long, no one knows. But long enough that I had to go to the hospital. And there was a slight fear that I may lose my leg. It was purple. And my grandma said everyone called me the baby that wouldn't cry. Because I don't know if anyone knows anything about the Freudian stages, but I mean, it's common sense. If you're a baby and no one's responding when you cry, you're not going to do that any longer. You're going to give that up. So my grandma slept for a long time after she took guardianship of me with me on her chest. That way she would know if I was stirring, if I woke up and I was hungry or needed changed, I guess. I obviously don't remember this if I was less than 5 months old, but from what I've heard. So my mom, she eventually had another baby, Justin. I think I was 3, and he ended up passing away. She never regained custody of me. She didn't have any interest, honestly. I met her a few times over the years. When bad things would happen to her, she would end up back in our life. But I never knew her, She never had an interest in me, to be honest. And I don't think that I ever had an interest in her. I never remember feeling any connection to her. And I felt a lot of guilt about that. I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Like, that's your mom, you should love her. A handful of times I ever remember seeing her, it was like she wasn't in there, at least not for me. But I digress. I start thinking about, not knowing the story of the people that made me, and I end up feeling a little bit like I don't know me because they're my story, kind of, I don't know if anyone else can empathize with that. It probably sounds really weird. It was weird. It felt weird. But it's always hard around my birthday. I don't know if I want to share this. I've never really talked about this to anyone ever. Ever. My real dad was on a lot of drugs too. They were never an item. They were teenagers. And he was in and out of jail from what I was told. Well, from what I know. It was common knowledge. He was a criminal. He was on a lot of drugs. But when I was in high school, I don't know if I want to share this. I've always had kind of a preoccupation with true crime. Mostly like, people who commit murder, like how they can do that. More like the emotions behind it. And I don't think anyone, and they probably just thought I was a weird kid. I was a weird kid. I'm still a weird kid. The truth is that my real dad, I know the very basics of this. When I was a senior in high school, I lived in a very small town, Corning, in California. About 5,000 people. All I know is that he was convicted of murder in that town. And it was, I don't want to talk about the details. It was gruesome. It, it was awful. And he ended up being convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life. He was not in my life. He was never someone I knew. But I did work at the police department, and it was a very small town. And actually, it was the day of my senior prom, I think. I was getting off earlier, and I worked at Burger King. And I obviously didn't really know his mother either. I was working at Burger King, and she came to the drive-thru and told me what had happened. Said who she was and what had happened, and then left. It was awful. It was really awful and embarrassing. I don't want to go into the details, but I'm kind of afraid to look into it anymore to learn the details. I'm not going to share any more of that story right now because I just can't. But I've never looked into it anymore just because this is going to sound all weird, but to find more out, to ask more, or to know any more, it's kind of like learning a piece of me, even though I didn't do that. I never hurt anyone like that. I would never. But I mean, I'm one off from him, right? I'm his offspring. And I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying he's a good person. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. So I guess I'm kind of saying I don't know if I'm a good or bad person. That's what it feels like sometimes. And it feels like if I were to know more about any of that or him, as much as I want to know my story and all of the stuff that led to me being here right now today with all these questions, I kind of want to know that story, so I can know all of my story. But I'm also so scared to learn any more about that story because I can't unknow it. And I'm so scared that it's going to change who I see when I look in the mirror in a way that I can't fix. I don't know what to do with that. And the older I get, the more I want to know and the more scared I am to know. I just sometimes wonder if anyone else in the whole world can make sense of that or if I'm a freak show. It's okay if I am, I guess. But sometimes it feels good just to say that stuff out loud. If anyone listens, thank you. I needed to talk about that right now. And I hope it doesn't make any of you think I'm a freak show or anything other than just another person in this jacked up place. Thanks for letting me ramble. It means a lot.